Bonjour, Ana.
Bonjour.
Thanks for being with me. I was super happy that you accepted to have this discussion.
And thank you so much for this invitation. I'm very glad.
We're going to mention that English is for the both of us our second language.
Okay.
You live in Lisbon in Portugal, and I'm from Montreal, and I mostly speak French. So people will understand by our accent that we're not native English speakers. But the way I see it is that the important thing is to share great ideas. And I wanted you at the podcast because last summer, I went on a vacation and discovered the joy, it's kind of weird joy of like picking up trash on beaches. And it was just a beautiful moment when I went on vacation with my family because it was kind of peaceful, meditative moment. But at the same time, you realize how plastic is everywhere and all the small pieces. And talking about it, a friend told me you have to read the book Plasticus maritimus, which is your book actually. And she said, what you're doing is actually has a name. It's called beachcombing. And for me, I love walking, but if I can walk and do good for the world at the same time and kind of bring a different message, I'd be happy to do it. So this book addresses a serious problem of plastic pollution, yet it's very luminous and beautiful. So I don't know, like there's something very hopeful and with this book that I love. So I don't know if you want just to start by talking about how did you end up creating that book?
So I created a page called Plasticus maritimus. I created this name, pretending it's a scientific name of a new species on the beach. And in 2018, I had an invitation from a Portuguese publisher to write a book about this project and about the plastic pollution. So, and actually I was already thinking about writing a book because I think it's important. A book is very good to reach people and to take the information. And I thought at that time people didn't hear about this problem. So it would be very nice if I would have a book. And as I'm a marine biologist and I always add field guides to go to the beach or to identify the species that I find, I thought it would be great to have a book that would be a field guide so that people could know what kind of stuff they are finding on the beach. A work that I was already doing, identifying the objects. So it was very good. I wrote the book with Isabel Martins. And the illustrations are from Bernardo Carvalho, who is actually my brother. He's illustrator. And so this is a family work.
And it's really a book that I put it on my shelf because it's beautiful to look at, but also because, like you said, it's a field guide. You want to keep it close because you give very practical tips of how to do beachcombing and how, like what equipment you need, how to get prepared. So can you describe a very classic day on the beach for you? Like, how do you go on the beach and do beachcombing?
So I live very close to the beach, so I go to the beach every day. And I usually, it depends if there's too much trash or if the tide is low or if the tide is high, because when it's high tide, the beach gets very small, so we can't walk in all of it. So I usually go to the sand. I try to find the elements to my collection because I'm collecting many of the objects that I'm finding on the beach. And when the tide is low, I go to the rocks, and I also like to try to find fossils and trying to observe some marine species. That this is the thing that I do since I was a little girl. So this is a good day on the beach.
And what we realized reading the book is, and it's what I discovered when I walk outside. We take a walk every day with Vince, and in Canada, there are huge contrasts between the seasons. And I think it's also something you talk about in your book, the fact that depending of the moment of the year, the experience will be a bit different and you won't find the same items, I think.
Yes. And actually in some countries you have, during the low tide, for example, in Canada, you have snow, and we don't have that in Portugal. But it's also different during the winter and during the summer. And the items sometimes are also different in some times of the years. It depends on the currents and the winds that bring more or less trash.
What do you find, like, in the summer, for example, if we choose a season, what are the typical items you find very often on the beach?
I usually don't like to go to the beach during the summer to pick up trash, because it's recent trash. During the summer, the beaches are clean because the municipalities clean the beach, because everybody goes to the beach during the summer. So you have lots of recent trash. And I don't like that because that's trash that people just left it or get flied from the container bins. I don't know. I don't like that kind of trash. I like marine litter, the things that were traveling in the ocean, and the old things or things that I find that came from Canada or United States. I like these objects with a story behind. This is the interesting about picking up trash on the beach.
Yeah, that's the interesting part that I realized too. I was on a beach in Quebec, from a lake, actually. It's a huge lake in Lac Saint-Jean. And I was surprised because at first nothing seemed apparent, like it was a very beautiful, clean beach. But when we start looking, we see all these small things and
microplastic.
Exactly. And then you wonder, how did this end up here? Pieces of glasses too. I have, like, I kept, like, you call this sea glass. And by the color, you kind of feel it's not from this era, right? Like I don't know bottles that look like that. So you kind of start to wonder, how did this end up here? Who threw that in the lake or the ocean? So I guess it's part of your journey every time, that discovering something you don't know.
Yes. I'm always trying to find something, a treasure. I call it treasures. They are not treasures, that it's not gold, but it's my treasures because are special objects. I like that. And talking about the book, when we wrote the book, we wanted people to know the urgency of changing behaviors. I want people to know the problem, and it's a really real problem. But I didn't want it to people think, okay, this is so bad, we are going to die tomorrow, so we don't need to do anything. I wanted people to be motivated to change behaviors. Okay, we have a problem, but we still have time to do something. But we need to do something. We don't need to be radical anti-plastic, but we can change a few things. And I think this is the main goal. It's to make people to do something.
I think it's what I like about your approach is, like, beachcombing is becoming an expedition. Like, you go to the beach, and once you're there, I think that's how we fall in love with nature, isn't it? Like, that's a way to connect. And once we observe, like, the plastic everywhere, we realize that we don't want it to be there. Like, we collect it, but at the same time, as consumers, we want to avoid contributing to the problem somehow.
Yeah. So the beachcombing, there are two kinds of people that pick up trash on a beach. Are the beach cleaners, and usually the beach cleaners, they clean everything. They just know that that kind of objects shouldn't be there in that place. So they take it out of the beach and put it in a bin. And the beachcombers are kind of detectives. They want to, they look to the beach and they think each of these objects have a story to tell. Each of these objects came from somewhere, were used for something, and how did they reach this beach? So, and these stories are also important for people to engage with the problem, thinking this object could be mine. I'm using these objects also. So this connection is important, because if I'm talking, for example, microplastics are a huge problem, and it's very difficult to take out of the beach. Like you are saying, when you look closer, we can see very small parts. But people, I don't know, I think people don't engage with microplastic because it's a broken piece. They don't even know what object is it. So it's more difficult to talk about that, because we don't know what object is, what we can do. But if we see the other objects, I can choose to use it or not. So when we know that the things are reaching up the beach, maybe I can, when I go shopping, I may think twice and, okay, I'm not going to buy this because I don't want to use it. So it's easier when we understand. And also with the beachcombing, when we are counting, or when I go to the beach and one day I have much more of one kind of object, I may think, where is this coming from? This is new, so maybe it was from a container, cargo spill, or it was the industry, some closer industry that is leaving the trash coming to the ocean. I don't know, but it's easier if you know the objects, and if you can realize the difference between some days to the others, maybe we can solve the problem. And I think that when we look to the beach, we may know, okay, this is happening. Where is this coming from? Okay, let's try to solve the problem. This can't be happening.
Like you said, there are sometimes containers that broke open, and I think it was my first encounter with the journey that plastic is doing around the world. I think it's the story of the ducks, the classic, the ducks. And I think there were other types of stories, like a container spilled, and like all those rubber ducks that you have in your bath at home, they kind of traveled everywhere, and it was a way to understand how the currents are going. And like you said,
they were actually important to know the currents.
Did you find some in Portugal at this time?
No.
Okay.
I already found a few yellow ducks, but I don't think they belong to the same.
That same story.
The same story. But you know, in France, they have a competition. I don't know if we can call it a competition, but every year they leave ducks in the river. So I don't know, maybe I found some from France.
And like you said, because this item was part of my life. I had toys before when I was a kid. It connects with me. I'm like, oh wow, if something I own ends up in the ocean, it has to go somewhere. And what are those items that, like, I think like lighters, like there are some typical items that are very common. What are like those, so people kind of figure out what you find at your feet?
The most common objects, cigarette butts, cotton swabs that came from the sewage, and lighters, for example. We also find other things that came from the wet wipes. I think it's the name.
Yeah, for the babies, cleaning.
Yes, and people flush it. They put it in the loo also. So that's a big problem to the sewage treatment plants. and they reach the beach also. So there are, Sala, I don't know, there are so many things. Bottle caps. There are many objects that are all the same in everywhere.
Yeah, and
straws also, plastic straws.
I think what you mentioned is the book is people think because they throw it in the garbage or in the toilet that it won't end up in the ocean. Like they think it's going to go to a cleaning facility, but that's like you said, seeing the wipes on the beaches, then you think, how did it end up there?
Yeah.
So like the chain is kind of broken, right?
Yeah, and people after that they say, oh, but we have the sewage treatment plant. How can the things go to the ocean? And people, when they smoke and they throw to the floor the cigarette butts, they also don't think that this is ending up in the ocean. They think, okay, I don't know, someone will clean the street or something.
And it ends up there because how those do these objects end up in the ocean anyway? Why do you find all those things in the ocean anyway?
Why?
Yeah.
Because we have the rain drains. I don't know how do you say it. Is it
like a lot of rain, so things float and
on the yes, on the street it rains a lot. It goes to the rain drain. It's rain drain, the name.
Well, I'm not sure, but it there's an overflow of water and then it goes in the canals and then
that falls on the street.
Yeah.
So from there it goes to the ocean. Many things that they fly from the containers that they are very full. So many things fly. Many things are people throw away purposely and directly in the ocean or in the rivers. And many things, many old things, because many years ago we didn't have waste management. So the places where people were putting the trash were on in some places, in some mountains, and it's just a mountain of trash. And that mountain of trash many times is near the rivers or even the beach. So the things fly away.
And you can also find things that are quite old, right? That by the time it gets to you, like there's also a story of finding old stuff and like cigarette cartridge, I think. And
yes, I have many things from old times. Yesterday I found, yesterday or 2 days ago, I found one bottle cap liners. It's the plastic thing inside the caps. And in the 70s and 80s here in Portugal, when we were drinking some juice, we had some collections that we could make with the inside of the bottle caps. So sometimes I find it, things from the 80s. It's fine to, I like to find that kind of stuff.
We had that too with Pepsi. We could collect them and exchange them like coins.
Yes, I have some from Pepsi. Yes, 2 days ago I found the Spider-Man, and I also had some figures from the Portuguese selection football, soccer. You say soccer, from the soccer game, Portuguese selection from the '86, the game in Mexico. So it's incredible. I like to find that kind of objects, but it's not fine to know that they are on the beach for so long. So
I think that's what I realized. It's both beautiful to see your social media accounts, because you share those beautiful pictures of some items and on the beach, like toys and, like you said, objects we relate to. But so it's both beautiful artistically, but it's heartbreaking because the story gets bigger. So I think you actually collect stuff and you create art, like exhibitions with them, isn't it?
Yes, I don't know if it's if I can call it art. I'm not an artist, but I like to organize things. I think this is also from biology. We need to organize and give the names, and so this is almost a museum. And I like to know where, in what beach did I find that thing, and the date. And I usually put the date and the name of the object. And I like, so I think this is a museum organization. But yes, I like to organize it beautifully, or by the shapes, or by the colors, or by the collections of the objects that I'm creating. And some of the objects, I think they came from other stories, fun stories that are not fun. For example, the container of Lego, the container spill of with Lego toys in 1997.
Okay.
And we can still find some of that objects. Wow. And I also have a story of HP cartridge from an accident near the Açores in Portugal, near the Açores in 2014, and we can still find the ink cartridge. So sad stories, but I like to find it because it makes me belong to the story too.
Yeah.
And mapping, it's important. There are some people mapping some kind of objects, and this is also important to know when they know where is the origin of the problem, and to realize where these things are reaching. From the years are passing, and we are still finding the stuff very far away from the origin.
I think one example.
It's scary at the same time. It's very scary.
Yes. Yes, it's scary we kind of didn't realize that, like, our habits in one place and influences someone else at the other part of the world. And I think one example was lobster ties from Canada, actually. That ends up.
Yes. Once I was finding, and I put the pictures on Facebook, and once a guy told me, can you sue the Americans or the Canadians because the trash are reaching our beach? And I said, okay, it's better we be quiet because they are finding our stuff too in the other side. Yeah. So we can point our finger to everyone. It's your fault. And we have another problem that we are facing. Usually the companies say that the consumers are the problem because the consumers didn't put the trash in the right place. But the companies, they want to get money, and plastic is very cheap. So they are putting everything in plastic because they want us to buy and they want to have more money. So. So they are very resistant to change the way they are doing.
And like you said, we cannot accuse anybody else. We're all part of this problem.
We are all part of the problem. But I think the government should be more radical. I don't think we should radical, but in some cases we should. For example, there are many things that are very small, and we don't take much attention to it. For example, the stickers from the fruit.
Yes.
But there are so many, we can't imagine. Why are they using it? And I know that the European Union approved that we can, in Europe, we can use laser instead of the stickers. Why aren't they doing it?
Is it like, so I guess it's part money or change. Like it's less expensive, but changing the system is harder. And
I don't know if it's so expensive because they don't need to buy the stickers anymore. It's just the machines. I don't know. Maybe it depends on the speed of the machine. I don't know.
Yeah.
but we can't do it. We can't still put the stickers anymore, even because the consumer, when we are eating an apple, we will take the stick to the floor. But, oh, this is a very small trash. What's the problem? But 10 million people are thinking the same. 10 million people think it's just a small piece of plastic. What's the problem?
And how many fruits do we eat every day? Like just one person sometimes, or vegetables. And I think that's what's powerful with like what I see from your posts, like your social media posts, is sometimes you find a very rare object and it's unique and there's a story around it. And sometimes is you find the same type of object so many times, and that's what like traumatizing, like realizing the volume of stuff you find. And yeah, we cannot escape it. Vince actually 2-3 years ago, he was writing a blog and he was doing challenges for 1 week. For example, not using a chair for 1 week, or not using utensils for 1 week, just trying to bring new ideas. And he realized that he couldn't do the challenge of no plastic for a week.
It's difficult.
It was
for a week. I think we can do it for a week.
Well, I mean,
for a month, it's very difficult.
In terms
I tried already.
Like in terms of not using additional plastic, it was okay. But for example, like his computer, like using anything that has plastic in it, was impossible.
Yes, yes, it is.
So it was kind of...
But we don't need to be radical anti-plastic. I think plastic can be very important and useful for our lives. And it's a great material. It's so good that everything we can do in plastic. But the problem is the waste management, that we need to pay attention to this and reduce the single-use objects. The things that we use once and throw away. We have to stop this kind of economy of... this is the urgent thing to change. Is buying less and trying to don't use the plastic, more plastic that we should have.
And because I know that there's also initiative, because like you said, plastic is actually a great material. We shouldn't demonize it, because its strength is that it's super durable. So it can be actually super valuable in other types of use, because it never ends. So are there I'm not like, maybe it's not in your area, but I was curious. I know some people are trying actually to recycle like really plastic and create new materials to like close the loop. Do you know if it's to this day, do we have very promising solution around that, like kind of grabbing all the plastic and finding
the plastic
ways...
from the beach, or plastic from the containers?
Both, in any case.
Because now there are many new companies that want to use plastic from the ocean, but sometimes that's greenwashing. They will buy a bottle of shampoo and say, this is from the ocean, this is plastic from the ocean, is eco-friendly. And sometimes the plastic from the ocean is only 1% of the plastic that they use. So it's a kind of greenwashing. And the plastic from the ocean is very difficult to use, because it's breaking down in different, it's drying, and it lost the characteristics of the plastic as they should have in the beginning when we make a new product with the plastic since the beginning. So it's a bit difficult to, and many times the plastic from the ocean also have organisms, plants, algae or animals in it. So it's also difficult to clean, but okay, it would be nice if we can use it, great. The other plastic that we use here and we put in the container for recycling, I think it's very important to recycle that plastic, but we shouldn't leave thinking that the recycling is the first thing we should do. Recycling is the last thing we should do. First, we have many things to do. We need to recycle, we need to rethink our way of consuming. We need to reduce the most plastic we can, especially the single-use objects. we need to say no to many things. We need to refuse most of these items. I don't know, repair the objects and I don't know, change with our friends if we don't want anything that we have, but we don't need it anymore. We can give to someone that it can be useful for someone. And the recycling is at the end of the chain, the chain of the R's. The recycling can be good, but the problem is that the plastic is not all the same. And this is the difficult part of the recycling. It's packaging or bottles, for example, with many different kinds of plastic. I have got one bottle, but it has a stripe around. It's a different kind of plastic, and the cap is also a different kind of plastic. And this kind of packaging is very difficult to recycle. For example, one other object that people use, I don't use, and I find a lot on the beach, is the coffee pods.
Oh, yeah.
Coffee pods. Why? It's more expensive, the coffee in that thing. That's very difficult to recycle because each of that small coffee pod, have different kinds of plastic. And even it have the coffee inside. I don't think people will stay there taking out the coffee to recycle and separate the different parts. Of course not. No one will do it. So I don't know. And it's very important, our way of seeing that's why I think it's so important for people to be informed. Maybe because I was using plastic as everybody a few years ago.
Yeah,
but
we don't
when
escape
we realize when we see this for the first time, we can't ignore it. We really need to do something.
And I was curious, actually, after cleaning the beach for a whole week, I ended up with a table full of stuff. So I had glass, I guess, is not as bad, right? Because it's like an inert aspect. I guess it's not, it doesn't bring toxic chemicals like plastic does, right? So it's not as worrying.
That's not a problem.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So it's kind of fun to find nice glasses. I know the kids kind of like to collect like the different colors and shape.
They think it's precious.
Yes.
They think it's precious minerals.
Yes, but I also finding not beautiful stuff like shoes, sandals, metal, like very like rusty, pointy metal combined with, like you said, plastic because they made a bottle out of it. And I was like, now that I looked at this, I said, well, what do I do with it? Like, do I put it back in the garbage or the recycling? But like you said, like sometimes it ends up back in the water. So I put it in the garbage. But what do you do when you have all this volume of stuff you find?
Many things I need to put in the normal container because there are things that won't be recycled. So I will not put it in a bin for plastics or for packaging. So a few things I put directly in a trash, in a normal trash, organic trash. We will start now in Portugal. We are trying to have a new container to put only the rest of food for the composting. Let's see how it's going to be. As I pick up litter on the beach in a different way of the other people. I'm very selective. I pick up a few things that I know that will be a trouble for animals. Plastic bags, styrofoam. I try to pick the big stuff. The small items of styrofoam are very difficult to clean. Sometimes I pick to put in some jars for the exhibitions, but it's impossible to clean the beach with styrofoam. That is an object, for example, that I think should be banned. We shouldn't be using styrofoam in this way so banal. I don't know if you use the word banal. because that's dangerous. It's also very cheap. But so the other things, for me, it's like going to the supermarket. I'm trying to find the things for my collections. So I go to the beach and I'm picking up the stuff that I need to my collections to make it grow, because my collections, I need them to be grow. And for example, the stickers from the fruit and that kind of, if I say to people that I'm picking up stickers on the beach, the people won't understand the problem, because they will think, okay, there's one or two. No, it's not one or two, it's many. So I think it's important people to see the numbers, to see the amount of things. They need to be shocked with this was everything on the beach. Yes, this is just a small part of it. Sometimes I put in the Facebook, I just put sometimes for example, what I got this in one day, in one trip to the beach. Because today I found all of this. It depends, because sometimes they change from some days to others, but there's one day that, for example, some item called me more attention than others.
Like there are stories, again, like going back to the story of the object and what it means. And can you, I know you mentioned it in the book, like you're a marine biologist, right? So I guess like your concern was about like the living life and the impact of the plastic on the living life. So what are the consequences of the plastic in the ecosystem? Why is it so bad at this time?
It's very bad in different ways. The plastic can be a problem for the ecosystems. It can destroy the habitats of the animals, because it's rolling around and destroying everything. And the nets, for example, in the coral reefs or in our rocks, and the animals get stuck to it. The problem with the microplastic, when objects are breaking down and animals are eating the plastic, and the plastic is going through the food chain until us. We are eating plastic. We are breathing plastic. There are so very small particles in the air that we breathe, that we are breathing small particles of plastic.
Oh, that I didn't know.
Yeah, this is very bad. So we are breathing and we are ingesting through the food chain. This is not a problem only in the ocean, it's also a problem inland. Animals inland and birds are eating plastic because they think it's their own food. And there's also a problem. There's some studies made with birds. The birds, the pieces of plastic, they are attracted to eat because of the color, because of the shape of the plastic, but they also, the plastic get the smell of their food, because the plastic is so long in the ocean that the small phytoplankton, the small plants, the small algae get stuck to the plastic and other organisms, so that the plastic get the smell and the animals are attracted to it too. So they are eating it. And the problem with the plastic, it works like a sponge. So the plastic is toxic when it is produced from the petrol. And it also has some addicted some products to it that turn it, during the production of the objects, we introduce some additives and some other components and ink to give the color, and some products to give flexibility and to give the characteristics that we want the plastic to have. And that kind of products are very toxic. So when animals are eating these small particles of plastic, they are also eating all that components. And also the plastic, it works like a sponge. so when it is in the ocean, it is also attracting many pollutants that are already in the ocean. And sometimes pollutants from products that we are not using anymore, but they are from many years ago and they are still around. And when they see the plastic, they get glued to it, and animals are eating this. And this is being a problem because the amount of these pollutants is growing along the food chain.
Over time. Oh, okay.
And over time, if they are eating more, they are getting more toxins, and then we are eating it.
Yes, I think people think it's again like the magical idea that you put something in the trash, a car comes, a truck comes, and then it disappears from your mind. But seeing your work, like it reminds you, it's going somewhere and it's coming back to us somehow. And I know some images are very powerful about some plastic products like that mechanically affects the animals, like the classic, like the rings from the soda cans that kind of chokes turtles and fishes.
Whales.
And so when you see that, it's very intriguing, like it's very heartbreaking. But then, like you said, there's also the invisible.
The invisible is the worst, but we can't do anything. We can't. That's the problem, because we are still getting plastic every day in the ocean. Tons and tons of plastic are reaching the ocean every day, every hour. And that plastic along the time, it will break down and create microplastic. The microplastic is impossible to take out of the ocean. It's very difficult to take it out. So we need to stop introducing plastic in the ocean. There are many rivers feeding the ocean with plastic. And there are many countries, in maybe the most pollutant countries in Asia, they don't have a waste management implemented in the system in their countries. So the plastic is reaching the rivers and the ocean. That's very, very, very dramatic. It's really shocking. And so I think it would be important for the governments to look at this problem in a serious way, and to get some urgent measures. Measures.
Absolutely.
They should have urgent measures to change this. I know now, I think we are in time of revolution of plastic. Many companies are trying to find new materials. Many trying to put filters, for example, in machines to don't let microplastics go to the ocean. And other kind of microplastic are used we have two kinds of microplastic. One is the objects that are breaking down, but then we have other kind of microplastic that is made in very small pieces on purpose.
Or like the toothpaste, isn't it?
Toothpaste, exfoliant.
Yeah, in French they say exfoliant, like scrubs, like cream.
Scrubs. Scrubs for face and body, and that have microplastic, and it goes directly to the ocean.
Is it like forbidden now in some places?
In some places is forbidden. In England, in some places, I don't know if it's in UK, all of it, or if it's just in some places, but some countries are forbidding it. But we are still using plastic bags around the world. The COVID situation is bringing more plastic, even more plastic, the masks and the everything related.
To one-time use. Shopping. Like it increased
even
actually.
The fruit and everything. Oh, it's because we are having the COVID. I think it's very, okay. I know that we must have protection from the virus, but in some cases this plastic is not saving us any.
Yeah, it's
for example, cutlery, plastic cutlery.
Yes,
we don't need it. Okay, maybe we need it in hospitals or in places where there are people infected, but not everywhere.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's a very good excuse to use plastic.
What I think is powerful, I realized, because this year, I don't know how it is in Portugal, but in Canada, it's not encouraged to get out of the country. So it brought a lot of tourism inside the country and actually inside the province. So what I realized this summer is that if people don't travel elsewhere, like this last summer, there was already a problem of an overflow of people in some places, and you have to deal with the garbage and the sewage. Because people park and tent, like put their tent anywhere. So I kind of realized that this summer we might be exposed to our own trash, because when you go travel and then you leave everything there and the beaches are not yours. But this year, this summer, the trash is going to stay in our country. So I wonder, it's going to be both dramatic, but I think maybe it's going to expose the problem even further to people and sensitize them to what's happening.
In one kind of view, it's important for people to see, okay, this is belong to us. Maybe it obligate us to make a reflection about it.
Yeah, and about microplastic, I know a few years ago two stories really got me before I discovered your work a few years back was the duck story, but also a documentary from Vice on the garbage continent. And I think it was the East Pacific garbage patch that he was talking about. And the journalist was very sincere that he thought he would arrive on the scene at the spot where all the garbage kind of collides and see a huge, they called it the continent, like a huge pile of trash. But when he arrived there, it was super flat. And that's where he realized that that's because with the currents, things, they broke down, and the water was so filled with tiny plastic, it was jellified. And
I know.
Like you mentioned, some pieces, I don't know which color, were in smaller quantities because they were more appealing to fish. And that's stayed in my mind since then. So I think that your work has the power to do that same impression. When people see it, it sticks with them, and it changed their view forever. So do you feel that over the years, because you've been doing this for years, do you see that people are getting really more aware?
Yes. Yes, here in Europe, in 2018, it came a rule to, let me see if I can translate this. It's a rule to use the plastics in Europe. I don't know the translation now. I can't remember even in Portuguese how it's called. But it's a new political way of using the plastic to regulate it. And so the social media gave much more importance to this. And since then, since the beginning of 2018, people are much more aware about the problem. No one can say that they don't know about the problem. Everybody knows. Everybody knows that we are facing a problem with the plastic. So, but many times people think that there are not alternatives. So they think, oh, it's very difficult. How am I going to buy my apples? Are you joking? You can take your bags. But people are so used to go there and to self-service and use the plastic bags that they have at the supermarket that they can't think that, okay, we could just bring ours or don't even use it. Many times I don't use it. I put everything on the same basket.
Yeah.
I just put it together in the place to
at the register.
Yes, at the register. But the rest I put everything together. What's the problem? But many people buy one banana in one bag, one apple in another bag, 2 orange in other bag. You go home with the 30 plastic bags. That many times we don't use it anymore because they are very thin.
And do you see a difference in kids? Because I know part of your work is also to educate. So you create workshops and you work with kids. So can you, before I go on with questions about that, can you explain what types of workshops you do? How is it to have a workshop with you?
I usually like to mix a bit science and art. I like to use different
media.
I'd like to use different artistic techniques, but I use it with the plastic. But before having this project, this Plasticus Marítimos project, I was already working in environmental education activities, and I was doing this since 2012. And I always like to mix science and art because I think the science is important so that people understand the reality and the numbers and the things, and to know more about the fish, for example, or to know more about the animals that live here in the beach. But I also like to play, and I like to use different techniques that are beautiful or that have a different impact, and I think we can play with it. And even when I do teachers training, because I think it's very important for teachers to be connected with this and to know, to be informed, to work with kids, I usually say that this subject of marine litter, you can use it in different courses. You can use it in math, in Portuguese, you can use it in geography and history. You can work this subject in every courses. So teachers can be together in the school working with kids also, and to make a bigger project. Because if they need to give the example. And what I thought for a long time, I was going to the schools, but even if they like very much my work, if the school don't make any change, the kids won't understand that the problem exists and it's real, and they don't feel enough convinced that it's important to change. So I think it's important all the school, everybody be informed and work together to take out the plastic from the school and make difference. But in my activities, so I like to make different things. I love my summer holidays with kids, my summer workshops.
Yeah.
That I usually stay 1 week with the same group, with kids between 8 and 12. I love this age also because they are grown enough to read and to understand the things and to engage with the stuff, but they are also kids enough to connect and to be more activists and to take this thing, to believe that it is possible, they can do something. And they are also kids enough to have a very creativity, to have a very good creativity and to fly in the stories. So I love these ages. I think it's incredible. And during that week, I make some experiments and some things that we can do alternatives to plastic. For example, one year I did some straws with the paper. They did the straws with the paper. Another year I collected the plant to make real straws, nature straws. But I also like to play with art, doing cyanotypy. Last year I did cyanotypy. Every time I have a subject, a main subject, last year was turtles.
Mm-hmm.
So we were talking about turtles. I invited a friend to talk, which is a scientist. She works with turtles because I want them to know and to understand more about the turtles. So all the week was about turtles. So we created turtles with paper, and we did some stop motion animations, and I don't know, many things, some scientific experiments to understand that what is dilute, for example, wet wipe and paper that we use in the toilet.
Toilet paper? Toilet paper.
Toilet paper. That we can try to dilute it, and they understand that the toilet paper can be diluted and not the wet wipe.
Mm.
So I think it's important them to see the difference. And I also have a microscope where they can observe the things through a magnifying glass or a microscope. So, I don't know, many different activities.
And I bet
they usually the plastic that I collect during the summer, that's what they use also during those weeks. I usually make two different weeks. So
I think I recall the turtle. Like there was it was an artistic project. Like they kind of shaped the turtle with pieces of microplastic. I think when you said the turtle week, I think I saw it. Was it last summer or one before?
There was a turtle that I did with the plastic, but it wasn't animation. I just did. But the turtles that they did animation was they entered the animation. So I did. It was very. Each of them had a turtle, and with the plastic from they made the scenario.
Okay.
And I was taking pictures from the above. And so they entered, the kids were in the animation too.
I think that's what I appreciate when I follow you, is that the kids are like, they are empowered. They become like you said, they become activists. And I don't know if you have stories about that, but I feel like a kid that loves your camp and the activities with you, like it has an impact on the whole family, because he might arrive home and be so excited and share what he learned. Like, is it the experience
sometimes it's difficult because I don't know the families, no? So sometimes it's difficult to have the feedback, but sometimes it's very good to have the feedback. A couple of months ago, I had a mother wrote me, Ana, my kid, he made the activities with me during the summer. And he said, Ana, my kid, it was his birthday, and he wanted the cake to have a turtle and a plastic bag. So the cake of his anniversary was related with the subject that we had in the summer. I think that's very good. How many, 6 months later, he was still thinking about it, and I think it's important. Yeah. And recently, I also had a father wrote me. They were following my work, and I didn't know. They were following my page, and he told me, my daughter created a page. Anna, you have to see this page. It's in Instagram. It's my daughter, and she did the workshop with me a few years ago. And she was so impressed. We were talking about sustainability and what we can do to change. And now her page is about that. She gives tips for people to change their behaviors. So that's very touching. That's very good. But it's nice to know that the word is growing.
And like you said, sometimes on some aspect, the government has to interfere, and then the companies need to change their ways. But also, I think people need to be hopeful also about our individual power, because even if we feel like it's small, it grows, and it creates an echo. And one story that touched me was my brother. is not a beachcomber. He's a cleaner anywhere. Like when he does bicycling or even when we walk in the city and we're talking, he would like just bend, grab a bottle, put it in his bag. The kind of trash that people wouldn't want to touch, like is just very natural for him. And he said that he does that in where he lives and near a bicycle path. And he would do that with his girlfriend like often. And then he told me that once he saw a family coming in the same spot, and he learned that I think it's the kid that said the kids saw them and asked the parents to do the same. And I thought it was so beautiful because that's all it takes, and then it's gonna grow slowly.
But I think that's what happened also when we go to the supermarket and we say no to this or to that. The people see us, and in the beginning they think it's impossible, and then they will start doing it. And a few years ago, I was the only one picking up trash here on the beach. Now everybody is every day. There is someone. When you start seeing the plastic, you see it everywhere. That's terrifying. That's terrifying.
Yep.
But I think it's important, these examples that people are following to see the others doing. And fortunately, we have more and more people changing their behaviors. But the companies and the government, they will just do something if we ask to. So
if we say no to their product, if we
the supermarkets or the companies will change their products when we start saying no to it. So I like your cookies, but I won't buy it because it has lots of plastic. And I won't buy it. And if they see that people are not buying, they will be obligated to change. Unfortunately, it's the opposite. They should be worried with their family's future.
How is it in Portugal? Here, there's a huge wave of the zero waste movement, and with like new groceries and like, how is it in your country?
Yes, also. Yeah,
it's growing.
It's growing. Yes, it's growing. And even the normal supermarkets, some of them are now putting some things that we buy with our own boxes. With some,
I don't know. It's like a.
I don't remember the name.
I have the name in French. It's vrac. So that you arrive there and it's in bulk, and then you use your own containers.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And when you do,
you can buy the amount that you want.
Yes, exactly. And
so we can go there and we just buy what we want. We don't need to buy the things in packaging, with packaging.
And when you do your exhibition, so I guess, so you have the workshop with kids, and then you do your exhibitions, you have a diverse crowd, isn't it? Like different ages. What's the typical feedback people give you? Like, I think you did one last summer or in the fall.
Yes, I had several exhibitions actually.
Okay.
And last year I had my first international exhibition.
Oh, okay, good job.
Because the book was, it has now an edition in Czech Republic. So they wanted to make an exhibition there. Plasticus maritim. So my first international exhibition was in Czech Republic.
Okay.
So in the exhibitions, I like the exhibitions because with the exhibitions, I can have all kind of public. Everybody can see it. And that's the main goal. This is not just for kids. This is not just for adults. This is for families. And I like to be, when it's possible, I like to stay there. Because if I stay there, I can talk with the family. And I don't say what they have to do in their lives, but I think it's important for them to know the problem and to decide in family what they can do for change. Okay, this is very important for us, but this object is not so important for us. So we can stop buying it. Or instead of buying it every week, we can buy it only once a month. and then we will stop. One day we will stop buying it. But it's important to do something to start. For the first thing that I did when I saw this problem, the first thing that I changed was the shower gel. I just left shower gel, and
because of the small
no,
pieces,
because
or the
it's
bottle?
a plastic bottle.
Okay.
Because it's a plastic bottle. Not every gel have microplastic, fortunately. But because of the bottle. So I'm using the sabon.
Yeah, soap.
Soap.
We say savon in French too, so
yes. No, soap. Yes, I know the word, but I just forgot it. So that was the first thing. The shower gel and gel to wash our hands. Just that was the first thing. But there are many things that we can do. Families should think about it and decide. And now it's good because everybody is at home. Everybody is confined at home. So every time you go to shopping, you can't go, or you shouldn't go every day to shopping. So we should think, what do you need? Make a list, and of the list, what we can buy with no plastic. What we can decide in family. Okay, the kids are a problem, because for kids everything is plastic, even the snacks for school. But people will understand also when they will change the kids' snacks for school. They will improve considerably the quality of what they eat.
Because it's all in individual, single-use packaging, like small pieces. Yeah.
Yes, but also they are that things are processed food with lots of sugar, lots of salt, lots of fat. So if they try to change that kids' snacks, it would be amazing.
In many different levels. Yeah,
in many different levels.
What's the typical feedback like you get from people at the exhibitions? Like, are there like recurrent, very common comments that people tell you when they see your work?
Usually, many times when people don't know the subject of the exhibition, many times they are attracted by the colors or by the panels with the flowers or with the floats from fisheries, that they are beautiful, and I try to organize it in a beautiful way. Because if I put the amount of trash, no one wants to see it. They say, that's disgusting. What's that? But if we organize it, everything is clean, everything is organized. So people are attracted by the colors, that I also like to play with the colors of the plastic. But I had some feedbacks, fun feedbacks. Some people told me, Anna, this is beautiful, but you shouldn't do this, because people will think it's nice to have trash on the beach, because this is beautiful. And I'm feeling, and people say that I'm feeling that I like this, but I shouldn't like this, because this is a problem. People get confused. But I think if I should, but it works at the same. It works. It just people are attracted for it. And then they realize that there are objects with 50 years old. But I think this is important to think. I'm not saying that in my exhibition, I'm not saying anywhere that this is your fault because you didn't put this on the right bin. I just show the objects. I tell the stories of some of them. It depends the place where I do the exhibitions, but sometimes I use more or less the field guide that I have in the book. Plásticos marítimos vulgares, with the normal objects that we use in our everyday life, and everybody recognize them. And then the exotic, plásticos marítimos exóticos, the strange objects that came from, or because they are old, or because they came from far away places. And I usually do also a part with the things that are difficult to identify. So I ask, help me to identify this. Do you know what this is? Anyone?
Are there still objects you haven't found the origin? Like over the year, like for years, you still don't know the answer?
Yes. Sometimes there are a few things that I still don't know exactly what they are. I don't know where they came from. But some I just knew recently. It's very nice sometimes with kids, because many times I don't know what are a few things. But then with my niece, and she say, this is from a toy. I don't know the toy, but she knows the toy, or the something to eat, or that usually kids get.
I understand the confusion of people, that people enjoy seeing all this plastic, but at the same time they feel guilty because they wonder if what it means. But I really think that you can enjoy the exhibition and seeing those objects like Barbie shoes and small figurines, and at the same time not wanting it to be there anymore, right? Like not wanting to contribute. And that's what I felt, is like a small gesture grows over time. Like when during the vacation, I would start at the beach and just grab a few things, right? Like on the first day, just, that's interesting. And I have like 5 pieces, for example. But the next day I was more curious. And the last day I would wake up earlier.
I know what that is. And sometimes I go at night. Night. I'm very addicted. It's raining. That's lots of trash on the beach. So I don't want to go during the night with mobile.
Exactly. And then at first there are some things I didn't want to touch. Like you said, some things are not appealing yet. Like you don't want to be like just a cleaner. But when I was thinking, well, I'm there, so I'm gonna clean it. I'm passing every day. So then it, like the pile starts to grow, and it gets encouraging, and it creates momentum and excitement. And then going back this summer, I want to go back to the beach and do it. So I feel like it's gonna stay with me for a long time.
You can be addicted to it. That's a problem. But in the beginning, I was a beach cleaner. In the beginning, I wasn't looking to the objects, but I was coming out from the beach very depressed. How is this thing happening? Because this was in a time in 2012, 2011, no one was talking about it in Portugal. And I thought, I'm getting crazy, because I can see this. Where is this coming from? Why is this happening? This is happening and no one is talking about it. How is it possible? And now it's a bit different. Now everybody knows. People already know the origin of a few things. And I think that's good. But then I usually say that beachcombing saved me. Because when I started to understand the origin of some objects, or what some objects are, I start to like this. And it's not very good also. I like the trash. I like the trashy days. But it's for a good cause, I think.
And and it creates community, right? Because when you don't know what one object is, you create relationship online, because you meet other people elsewhere in the world that has the same question as you. And it
when I created Plasticus Maritimus page, there was a group on Facebook. It was called Lost at Sea, and it was an amazing group. And I'm missing so much that group, because there was people from all the world, everywhere in the world, that was doing the same as I do.
It closed?
It was closed in 2017 because the lady that was managing the group the brands have a great power, and she's starting to have
pressures like
yes
from
people,
companies.
I don't know, she never told
Okay,
me that it was a company, but she started to be pressed to be quiet, and people don't want to her to know that. And even worse, someone closed the group, a hacker closed the group, and she can't touch the group anymore.
Oh, wow.
They closed the page, so it was vandalized. But it was a pity, and everybody missed it. Sorry?
I wouldn't have expected that. Is it because some objects, there's a brand like clearly attached to it? Some they feel threatened, or?
There are many things, because, for example, the container spills, it have the problem with the insurance. Who's the fault of that accident?
Is it the transporter or the company?
The transporter or the company. Maybe the boat have too many containers on the boat and it shouldn't, or the containers were not very well, it did have the seat belts.
Yeah. Like it wasn't
Something,
properly
conditioned. I don't know. And this is so many problems. So the beachcombers started to be a problem, because, for example, when you see lots of things related with Coca-Cola don't like it. That we are saying you are putting trash, your trash is on the beach. So there's also a movement to press the brands, and so they say that every time you go to the beach and you find something from this brand, you should tag the brand.
Okay.
Or ask the brand, is this yours? To make a kind of hashtag, is this yours?
Yeah.
And put the brand. So the brand need to feel guilty.
Responsible.
Responsible.
One of my master thesis subject was about social responsibility of companies. Like, and to me, it was so obvious that as a future entrepreneur, I want to create good, right? But when I started 10 years ago, it was still at this idea of we won't do it until it's good for the money, right? Like we're going to do it. But like you said, a lot of cases of greenwashing, social washing. Today, some companies, like there are more and more companies that they do it because they really, really care, right?
I know.
But at the time, people were, it was weird for me to read that some companies were doing this, like, oh, it's not our fault. Like the consumers want it, so we give it to them. And I'm like, well, everybody has to do a part, like be part of the solution, right? You cannot just get away from what you do. Like, and that's interesting. I didn't expect that. I wouldn't have believed that such initiative would irritate the big brands. And I guess it's a good thing then. They realize that your voice is powerful.
Yes, but the bad thing for them, it's now there are even more beachcombers. Now there are new beachcombers all over the world. Everybody looking to the sand of the beach. So they really had to change. I think it's a question of time. They really have to change. In Europe, we have some dates to until for 2025 or 2030 that the companies have to change. But for example, we were supposed to ban some kind of single-use items last summer here in Portugal, and with the excuse of COVID, they didn't do it. So maybe this year, but I don't know when. I don't.
Yeah,
this is very frustrating.
Yeah, it's in the short term, it's frustrating, but like over time, I'm hopeful that it's going there because, like you said, beachcombers are multiplying, and
yes, fortunately,
and the impact again, like Vince seeing me on the beach being so happy helped me a few times. But when we came back to Montreal during our walks again, a bit like my brother, like he would see something on the floor, and instead of just going another way and complaining and saying, why are people throwing that in the trash?
They just pick it up.
Like just calmly picks it up. And actually, I asked you the other day, did someone in the world like created this other name for the plastic in the cities? Like, so it's like something like Plasticus urbanus. I don't know how it would be called in the Latin name.
We can have a new name for it. But you know, just about the book, the English edition of the book in Canada.
Yes.
It's a bit different from the others, the other editions in the rest of the world, even mine. The Canadian edition have a small part about the North American problem with the plastic.
Oh, okay.
So I think it's also good for that.
I have one in French, actually,
yes.
that I bought in a small library in Montreal. So the English one has the part about North America. So this one is like the direct translation
that
of
one,
yours.
Yes, it's the translation of mine. It's almost the same. But our problem is very similar because we are here in Europe, but I think it's good in Canada to have a part about the problem there.
So you wrote that part with your partner, like about North America?
No, they wrote in the Canadian publisher, but we read it. So we are changing some information, a few things that I didn't agree very well, a few things came out, other things came in. So, but with mutual conversation.
Yes. And what's different?
Mutual discussing about the book.
So we had a small Wi-Fi interruption, and we were discussing about the book that is coming out in English in Canada from a Canadian publisher. And there's a small part added about the situation in North America. So what's different between here and Europe?
There you have also the Great Lakes that are very important too in Canada. And it have a scientific name for Plasticus lacustris.
Okay.
This is the name for the plastic that we can find in the lakes and rivers and streams in North America. So I think it's important to have this part. It's the difference of the other editions in the world.
Because a lot of people in Canada are not close to the oceans. Even when I went this summer, it was a lake. The Lac Saint-Jean is like one of the biggest lake in our region, and I was actually surprised to find stuff there because I thought it was somehow a small closed circuit. And then I found stuff, and again you start to wonder what are the stories of those objects, how are they ending here. And you make me realize actually that the stuff I found is not, like you said, Plasticus maritimus. It has another name. I'm going to start using it.
Plasticus lacustris in interior places. Yes, but the problem is during so many years in the ocean, people think the ocean is infinite. And for example, the Great Lakes are so big that maybe people think, okay, this is so big. If I put the trash in the bottom of the lake, no one will see it. But
over
the years,
people, we see it.
They will get some life again, and they can reach the coastline.
And we have a question from a young fan. Actually, the friend that told me about your book, like she's doing beachcombing with her family, and I asked her, "Do you have questions for this author that you love?" So he wants to know, do you plan to write another book, and what it would be about?
Yes, I thought about writing a book before this one, before Plasticus maritimus. I would like to make a field guide. There are thousands of field guides, but I'd like to make a different field guide. I'd like to make about the fauna and flora that we can find here on the beach. and also some things that we find on the beach, but we don't know that that is fauna. For example, what we can find on the beach that is, for example, shark cases or stingray cases, or sometimes eggs of other species. And I would like that guide not only to describe the species, but also make some relation with other species. For example, the sea urchin and the sea star, they belong to the same group. And the difference, comparing the animals and not only talking about this one or the other one.
Mm-hmm. Is
and
it a
with
family
some curiosities.
Is it in the same style, like a family?
I would like it to be, I don't know if I'm doing it, okay?
Yeah.
But when my niece was born and when she was a little girl, she was going with me to the beach, and she was very curious, and I would like to teach her more about the animals. And even the main goal of my project, it's not the plastic. The main goal of my project or my idea, what I want is people to love the ocean. And what I want is that people love the ocean and to know more about the ocean and the species that live there. And I want people to understand why is it important to protect the ocean. This is the main goal of the thing, of everything. Of course, we also need to know and to understand the problems and to understand what we can do to solve these problems. Sometimes it's very difficult to solve, but there are a few things that we can do. But mainly, I think it's important people to know. And I'm sure, and now I'm living here again near my beach. I moved home from last summer. So I'm now again here near my beach, and I would like to work with this community. I don't know exactly how I'm going to do it, but these people that live here, that they go for the beach is not only mine. I usually say that it's my beach, but it's not only mine.
You like everybody
it a lot. And people even older than me that use this beach. But sometimes, but I believe that they don't know the animals that live there and many curiosities about them. And I would like these people that use the same beach that I do all our lives. I would like them to look at it in a different way. And I want them to feel that they need to protect it. I want them to feel the guardians of the beach, not the users of the beach. And I would like the kids to know that too, and to engage with these animals and the curiosities. And I think I'm very lucky because this beach have a big platform of intertidal zone. It means that we have one part of rocky shore that it's during the high tide, it is covered with water. And in the low tide, it don't have water, just some tide pools. And so it's very good for education. This is amazing beach to discover, to observe, It's very different from 40 years ago with not so many animals that we were used to have. So, but there are many different conditions.
You notice that there are less animals?
Yes, much less. It's a huge difference. And even my father, because this beach was also, it was my father's beach before mine. And my father talked about things that I didn't see, like having lobsters on the beach. I never seen a lobster in this beach. And the things, but okay, this is an urban beach. It have the influence of the river and the ocean. So the pollution and I don't know, people, too many people on the beach during all the year long. So too many things. We don't know exactly what is the problem. There are many problems. But now it is a protected area, so I believe that it will start to be protected.
And
it's not yet.
But see life coming back a bit more.
Oh, I hope so. I hope so. But
so
the book, I would like them to make people like the species and to protect it.
It's like you want this idea of a book was to actually a very practical tool, like gathering information that you were already sharing with someone and making a book out of it. And
I thought about doing when I thought about doing this book, I thought it to be with pictures and cut a few things and stick in to make a very homemade book to my niece. But now I think it should be nice to make it real so that everybody could use it. But I don't know. It's sometimes I write a few things, no pressure. Maybe one day, or maybe it will never. Maybe it will never see the sun.
But what I like about your idea actually is you make me realize that, like, the format, the way it holds in the hand, like, I think it's on purpose. You decided to design it in a way that we can easily carry it around, right?
Yes, that's the idea.
Is it your idea?
Carry it everywhere. Yes, it was discussed like this.
And you make me realize that I could also carry such a journal and when I go outside and at the lake or the river and observe and write down what I see, right? I guess, is it an exercise that is very classic with kids, like just to kind of observe and gather this information for themselves?
Yes, I think so.
I guess so. I think you encourage me to do that. I think I'll have your guide and then start writing down what I see in Quebec. And
I think the field guides are good for that. They are portable. You can take them everywhere, or you just can use it at home when you came home and try to find the species or know more about the species that you saw at the beach. So. But everything, I think this exploration that I did when I was a little girl, that's why I decided that one day I would like to study marine biology, to know more about the oceans. Actually, I wanted to study whales, but I didn't. So now Plasticus maritimus is my way to save the whales.
Why did you moved away from whales? Is it because too many things interested you, and so you kind of?
No, when I had to decide it at university, there was anyone at the university, in my university, there is no one studying marine animals.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Then I choose fisheries, and I loved fisheries. So I was studying fisheries.
And it evolved from there.
Yeah. But I still like the whales. My logo of Plasticus maritimus is a whale too.
Oh yes, you're right. And is it a logo drawn by your brother as well?
Yes.
Okay. He's very talented. You can say that he did a wonderful job. So if people want, like, for Canada, is the book out already, the English version?
Yes.
Okay. So people can find it both in French and English.
No, it also have it was selected. Now I don't remember, but it is in a great selection of books of science trade books. I think it's the name of the selection. I think it's very good. So I hope schools will work with the book like they are doing it in Portugal. It would be nice. Maybe.
In the school system, like the...
Yes, in Portugal they are working the book, so many teachers are using it for their activities, so it's very good.
And if people want to be up to date with what you're doing, I think you have great social media pages. What are the best places to follow your work and reach you? It's
Facebook and Instagram. Facebook usually is more complete. It's the older page.
Okay.
It's Facebook, and sometimes it's easier share and to share links and other things. And in Instagram, it's a bit more difficult, at least for me. But I try to make Instagram also
active.
Active.
So Facebook is the main choice, and then we can also follow you on Instagram.
But here, usually they say that the Facebook is for old people.
That's what I read last
the young
week.
people is in Instagram.
And TikTok, like, and then there's also new generation of stuff.
Yes.
I think below 20, I think even Instagram is kind of the old crowd.
Yes. So I don't know what's going to happen. I would like to make a site maybe this year. I'm trying to organize some information so that I can make a site. I think it would be important to have one. But I don't know when.
Like the book, no pressure.
No pressure.
But if you ever do either the book or the website, tell us, so we'll share the information.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks so much for your work. It's gonna be like I said, I can't wait for this summer. And like winter, we can do a few stuff, but it's not quite the same here with the snow. But I'm planning to do excursions specifically to go and see the beach and observe the life there. So thank you for inspiring me to do that.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you for the invitation for this conversation.
My pleasure. See you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Salut, moi c'est Vincent, je suis normalement derrière la caméra pour Radio Renard, mais avec Marc-Claude, on expérimente, on fait plein de tests au quotidien pour intégrer le mouvement dans notre vie. Vous allez donc me voir ou m'entendre dans plusieurs contenus qu'on fait pour Renard. Si jamais vous voulez avoir des idées ou des astuces pour intégrer le mouvement dans votre vie, on a plein d'outils sur le site web qui pourraient vous aider.
Oui, rendez-vous au renard.ca. On met le site à jour régulièrement. On a une section studio où on fait chaque semaine, on présente les expérimentations de la semaine. C'est vraiment un peu l'arrière-scène. Des fois un peu bordélique, mais les choses qu'on teste, les patentes qu'on fait. Il y a aussi une section biblio. On partage les livres qu'on aime. Il y a des auteurs qui ont changé notre vie. On parle d'eux vraiment souvent, mais on met aussi la référence de d'où viennent nos idées. Et finalement, on a aussi une chaîne YouTube. Fait que peut-être que vous nous suivez avec le podcast depuis un moment, mais on a aussi une chaîne YouTube pour montrer autant le podcast, le studio, mais aussi on commence à faire des petites capsules un petit peu plus courtes. On va commencer à faire des trucs pratico-pratiques pour le quotidien. Donc, suivez-nous.